Here is a scenario that's probably playing out in some form in your organization right now. 3 months ago, leadership approved a project. Everyone nodded enthusiastically in the meeting, and then work began. But now the project is behind schedule. It's over budget, and somehow it includes features that nobody remembers approving. The product manager insists that the original scope included mobile optimization. The engineering lead swears it was desktop only, and the designer is building for tablet first because that's what the stakeholder said. What happened? The same thing that happens to many approved initiatives. Everyone walked away with a different understanding of what was actually agreed. Welcome to the single biggest execution killer in modern organizations. So let's dig into this. We are going to go over here and find the no single source of truth problem. And we're going to talk about that today. Let's get this aligned here. Okay. Here is the uncomfortable reality about how many initiatives get documented. They don't. Someone takes notes during the approval meeting, maybe. Those notes get scattered across email threads, Slack channels, and individual notebooks. And by the time work actually starts, the original context has been filtered through multiple conversations, assumptions, and interpretations. And the result is that every stakeholder has their own version of what we decided. I call this the meeting memory problem. It's not that the people are lying or trying to be difficult. It's that human memory is unreliable, and organizational context shifts constantly. And what felt clear and obvious in the moment becomes ambiguous and contested 3 weeks later. Ambiguity in execution environments is basically poison. The absence of clear documentation doesn't just create confusion, it creates organizational paralysis. When teams don't have a definitive reference for what was approved, every decision becomes a negotiation. Should we include the advanced reporting features? Well, it depends who you ask. Do we need to integrate with the legacy system? Well, different stakeholders give different answers. I once worked with a software company where this pattern had become so pervasive that project kickoffs routinely took 3 weeks. And not because of planning complexity, but because teams spent most of their time relitigating decisions that had supposedly already been made. Without a formal artifact that captures what was actually decided, you get scope creep by assumption, accountability evaporation, timeline fantasy, and political leverage games. So what's the solution? Well, every approved initiative needs a single authoritative document that captures what was actually agreed. And this is not a 50-page requirement spec. It's not loose meeting notes. It's a crisp, clear artifact that serves as the handoff between approval and execution. And so here's how you create that. Step 1, create a standard green light document. Use a consistent format for every initiative and include these key elements. Initiative summary. That's a 1-paragraph description of what we're building and why, and written in plain language that any stakeholder can understand. Scope boundaries. What's explicitly included and, crucially, what's explicitly excluded. The what this isn't section prevents most of the scope creep. Success criteria. How we'll know when this is done and whether it worked. This is specific, measurable outcomes rather than vague aspirations. Key dependencies and risks. What could derail this project? What other work it depends on? And how we'll mitigate the obvious failure modes. Resource commitments. Who is accountable for delivery? What budget was approved? And what timeline was agreed? And then review cadence. How often we'll check progress? And who makes trade-off decisions when reality hits the plan? Keep it concise. 1 to 2 pages maximum. Step 2. Make it the official handoff artifact. The Greenlight document only works if it becomes the official handoff between approval and execution. No document, no kickoff, and no exceptions. Treat it as the contract between sponsors and execution teams. Before any work begins, all relevant stakeholders must review and sign off on the document. This forces clarity up front rather than hoping for alignment later on. Step 3. Assign version control and ownership. Every initiative needs one person accountable for maintaining the authoritative version of the Greenlight document. Usually this is the initiative owner or sponsor. When circumstances change, and they will, update the document deliberately. Don't let it drift from reality, but don't change it casually either. Version changes get tracked and discussed in governance meetings. Make updates visible and intentional. Step 4. Store it in a central shared location. Use a location that everyone can access it. Maybe that's a wiki pages, project management systems, shared drives. Just make sure it's findable. Use consistent naming conventions and tags for easy retrieval. If the process is buried in a document or it relies on memory, it won't get used. Step 5. Review it in check-ins and other reviews. In every status review or milestone check or trade-off discussion, anchor back to the Greenlight document. When scope questions arise, that is your baseline. Use it to flag drift or changes from the original scope. When teams see that decisions are anchored to a documented agreement, even hard calls become easier to accept. The goal is to make the Greenlight document the definitive reference for what was approved, why it was approved, and how success will be measured. Organizations that adopt consistent Greenlight documentation tend to see immediate improvements in project velocity, stakeholder confidence, and quality outcomes. There's less time spent relitigating decisions, and that means more time spent executing them. When everyone knows what was agreed, they stop second-guessing the plan and start supporting it. Now, some people will resist this. They'll say it's too formal, or it's too rigid, or it's too time-consuming. And they will argue that we're all adults here, and we can all remember what was decided. Well, they're wrong. Not because they're not adults, but because organizational context is complex, and human memory is fallible. The most successful execution teams that I work with don't rely on memory. They rely on documentation. And not because they don't trust each other, but because they understand that trust without clarity is just wishful thinking. Informal handoffs are not faster. They're more chaotic. The best execution teams don't wing it. They document it, and they do it before the stakes get high. Your approved initiatives deserve better than meeting memories and hopeful assumptions. Give them the clarity they need to actually succeed, and stop relying on organizational telepathy. Start creating authoritative handoffs. Your execution depends on it. Now, to get the complete framework for creating bulletproof project handoffs that eliminate confusion and accelerate delivery, grab the free Survive and Thrive guide. The link is in the video description.